So welcome to the second workshop in the competition. How's it going?
Awesome.
Okay.
So the question I have for you all is how many of you have begun the process?
Process of
Have you scheduled appointments with some of the advisory partners? Yes? Some of you are saying, where are the advisory partners? We have a list of them on our website. There's several resources that are shared in the orientation, which is actually on the website as well. And one of those resources is the Department of Small Business Services offers a course called Fast Track.
Which I just started.
You just started Fast Track. Okay, so Fast Track is a free course offered by the city that teaches you how to write a business plan.
No, it doesn't.
So it doesn't.
Yeah, they've changed it, and now their like online research will help you prepare a business plan, but that's not what the course is. The point of the course is to make a pitch deck.
Okay, so the point of the course is to make a pitch deck. Thank you for that update. There's another organization by the name of Workshops and Business Opportunity. How many people have heard of WeBo? So WeBo offers a 17-week, I believe it's a 17-week course in business planning. So it's another resource. The Empire State Development Corporation runs a program called the Entrepreneurial Assistance Program, which is a 10-week, 60-hour business plan development course. All right? Empire State Development Corporation, it's called the EAP program. Various small business development centers across the city also offer business planning courses. And if you have any questions around signing up for any of these courses, we can discuss those at the very end of the presentation, because some of us are self-directed, and that means that we can use resources like the book that we recommend, while others need something more structured. So we want to provide you with access to both of those resources. But today we're going to talk about developing the marketing section of your business plan. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's begin. So as with all the workshops, I always send out an invitation for each and every one of you to use social media. And one of the reasons that I use social media is to do extensive research on various business topics. I use social media to stay abreast of competition. And in the competition, it's also a means by which you all can post questions. If you have a question for me, you can also post questions here in the workshop, but you can also post questions. And I even put out a challenge that if you took my picture during the course of the presentation and posted it to social media, that I would choose a winner, and then that one winner would get a 1-hour free consultation with me. So several people have requested that I extend that competition, and I'll ask you all, would you like for me to extend that competition?
Yeah.
Okay, so raise your hand for yes. Raise your hands for no. Looks like the yeses have it, so we're going to extend it through workshop number 2. So if you haven't had an opportunity to take a photo and to post it to Twitter, and along with that post, if there's something that you find value or interest in the course of the presentation, then I welcome you to post it. And I will give the disclaimer that the 1-hour and 15-minute presentations that we do in the competition, they are introductory in nature. They're very broad when it comes to topics. So don't simply rely on these workshops alone, because there's a host of different resources that we've outlined in the orientation as well as the first workshop that you can access to utilize in the development of your business plan. Is that clear? All right. So if you haven't logged on to Twitter or signed up for Twitter, I think I shared that a few posts back, I sent a 2020 late Christmas gift. So if you search for my handle inside of Twitter and look through my previous post, you will find a wonderful present. Is that okay? Now, how many people know what the present is? Okay, 2 people know what the present is. Is it worth going on Twitter to get that present? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so 3 of you went into Twitter and found the present.
It's worth $52.
It's worth $52. So how many of you could use a savings of $52 today? Okay, she said it's priceless. And so whenever I find resources that I believe could be beneficial to you in developing your business plan, I post it to Twitter. So at the very least, if you want some additional resources to develop your plan, sign up for Twitter, search on Paisley Denby, my first name and last name, and yes, definitely make use of the resources. So I'm often asked the question, where should I be in the process? So during the orientation and the first workshop, they handed out a business plan development schedule. So if you're following the schedule will ensure that you complete your business plan by the time that the plan is due. And if you want to know what should you be doing right now, if you look at the dates, it says January 29th through the 31st, you should have completed your cover page and your company description. And one challenge I gave in the orientation was to complete your cover page, takes less than 10 minutes to complete, and to post it onto social media, because the toughest part of the competition is actually getting started. How many of you find that the toughest part is starting? So I put out a challenge. If your title of the business is not confidential, take a picture of it, post it to Twitter, and send me a note if you put inside of the Twitter message, @Paisley Denby, then it will come directly to me or I'll see it. So inside of your Twitter handle, inside your Twitter post, make sure that you put @Paisley Denby, especially if you're submitting the photo for consideration, and send the @ so that I can see that you actually started. So if you look around, there's a couple of people involved in the competition, but if you want to know who you're truly competing against, every year we get no more than 50 business plans. No more than 50. No more than 50. So you're technically competing against 49 other people at most, unless this year a ton of you get a burst of inspiration and you end up completing your plan. So today's content, what is marketing? Why marketing fails was discussed researching your target market and your competitors. We'll get into what marketing strategy is. We'll talk about the 4 Ps. We'll talk about how to select different marketing tactics and channels. We'll get into what a marketing schedule is, how to measure the success of a campaign, some resources, and some takeaways, and then we'll finish up with some questions and answers. So what is small business marketing? Small business marketing consists of identifying a target market, determining the target market's potential in terms of its size, its buying power, and then preparing, communicating, and delivering a bundle of satisfaction to the target market. Oftentimes, small business owners do not think about marketing from the standpoint of satisfaction. But every time you see something that's marketing and promoting a brand or business, you either feel good about it or you feel not so great about it. And in today's course, we're going to cover how you can get your customers to feel great about your marketing. So why does marketing fail? Number one, business owners often are confused around what marketing truly is. Oftentimes, they mix up marketing and sales. The two are two separate and complete different functions. Oftentimes, business owners will focus on only one form of marketing, and it may be a function of their experience or something that they're modeling after someone else that they believe is successful. And we all know that marketing can happen in many different ways and should be approached from a holistic standpoint. Because oftentimes, in order to get someone to buy or to take interest in your product or service, you have to put the message in front of them multiple times, and often during using multiple mediums. Number 3, not articulating what makes you unique and special. And if anyone ever comes up to you trying to market and promote a product or service, but you don't see anything special about it, as New Yorkers, we just move to the next thing. Number 4, ignoring readily available research. And here in the library has an extensive collection of databases and research resources that you can access free of charge. Number 5, campaigns that don't connect with consumers or customers. Tomorrow's the Super Bowl. I'm sure there's going to be a host of commercials that you see. Some are going to make you laugh. Some are going to make you wonder, what was the point of that commercial? So it's important to be able to connect with your audience. And then number 6, refusal to measure and track the marketing results. Now here in the competition, how many of you received an email? That's how you heard about the competition. How did you hear about the competition? Did you get an email? 2, interesting. If you came into the library and saw the sign, was that what got you interested in the competition? Yes. 1 person saw the sign, 2 people saw the sign. How many of you heard it from a friend? Okay, a couple more hands. Now for those that did not raise your hand, how did you find out about the competition? Google, interesting. 2 for Google. The Small Business Development Center. Thank you, one of our partners. Any others? So, as you can see, not one marketing mechanism attracted you all. It was an assortment of things. So business owners have to solve what we call an identity crisis. They have to understand clearly what marketing strategy is. Marketing strategy is not just promoting your product or service. When you think about marketing, you want to think about goals. What are the goals of your marketing strategy? What is the return on investment? How much money are you looking to put in? And in exchange for what you're spending, what are you looking to get out of it? I've seen a lot of businesses spend money on social media, and they've gotten a ton of likes, but they didn't get a ton of revenue. So when you're developing a marketing plan, you want to have goals and objectives. And as it relates to the market in general, you want to have a relative sense for what is the size of the market, how big are your target customers, whether it's individuals or whether it's businesses. And based on your marketing plan, how much of that market share are you looking to obtain? Next is, what is your sales pitch? And what I mean by sales pitch is, if you were on the elevator with, let's say, Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett says, this is your lucky day. Do you run a business? And you would say, yeah, I'm starting a business. And he says, well, I got $1 million to give to a lucky business. Give me your pitch. What would you say? There's a book that says the average elevator ride in New York City is roughly 90 seconds. The average elevator ride. I don't know who did the research. But in those 90 seconds, what would you say? Now, oftentimes when you're giving a sales pitch, you want to start with a hook. And what I mean by a hook is that's something to get the person to lean in. So just imagine you're on the elevator and you're the one with $1 million. And I were to say something like, so I help businesses 10x their revenue. Does that get you to lean in? If you're a business owner, you'll go, okay, that's interesting. Then I could talk about maybe potentially my background, my experience, and I could discuss maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different points that outline how I go about that process. And for your business, you have to think about what's going to hook your customer, what's going to get them to lean in. You want to have a clear sense of what their pains are. And a technique that I've used with several clients is, most traditional consultants will talk about the pain points of a customer, but they don't talk about a dream point. And what I mean by a dream point is, just imagine if you approach your customer and say, what do you dream of as it relates to your business? I understand some of your pain points, but what do you dream about making happen? Or what do you dream about receiving or achieving for your business? And then you can provide that. Just one point. So what do you sell? Oftentimes business owners focus on the actual product or service, but they don't realize that that product or service relates to some type of lifestyle, some added convenience, some type of comfort, some type of easement. So when you think about what you provide, think about what the benefit to the customer is in addition to just the product or the service itself. And then what is your brand? So think about your brand as the reputation of your business, of your product, of your service. What is the reputation that you're developing and starting to form? What do you want people to say about your product or service? What do you want people to say about you as the owner? So every activity that you would get involved in marketing is going to drive this reputation. And the person that controls it simply is you. And then what value do you create? Every single customer that you are proposing your product or service to, you want them to derive some type of value. And when you think about value, think about how they can benefit, what they naturally benefit, and how there's a match. Because if you can create a match between what they need in terms of a problem, pain, or otherwise, and what you're providing, then you're on your way to creating great marketing. So your traditional marketing plan starts with some type of market analysis of the competition, and then goes into marketing strategy. And marketing strategy is composed of 4 individual elements. And I think I asked the question in the orientation session, but I'll ask it again. Does anyone understand the 4 P's of marketing? Does anyone know what the 4 P's of marketing are? Anyone? So I asked this question. Okay, we got one here in the front.
Product, price, emotion, and place.
So I ask a different question. How many ladies here know the 4 C's of a diamond? What are the 4 C's of a diamond? Say it real loud. Just yell them out.
Carrot.
Carrot.
Clarity.
Cut. What's the other? And color. Now it's interesting that women know the 4 C's of diamond like the back of their hand, The business owners don't know the 4 P's of marketing. Isn't that interesting? And the reason that women know the 4 C's of a diamond is because at a certain age, they dream of getting that diamond on that special day. And I remember when I presented my wife with the ring and asked her to marry me, you know what the first thing she did? The first thing she did was look at the stone. And then after she looked at the stone, then she looked at me. So when you get the 4 C's right, you'll get a yes to your marriage proposal. And the same thing in business, when you get the 4 P's right, you gain the interest of your customer. So let's first talk about target market analysis. This is one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make when they bring their product or service to market. They don't have a clear sense of who their target customer is. They may have a general sense, but not a clear sense. Question?
Will all these slides be on the link at the end?
All the slides are currently on the library's website, nypl.org/BIZ plan. Just click on the workshop link, and all the slides from the orientation, the first workshop, and this workshop are on the library's website. So back to target market analysis. In clearly defining your target market, it helps you in so many different respects, because when you know exactly who you're going after, you can figure out which mediums to use to reach that market. And when I hear from a customer, hey, I'm going after all men or all women, I ask the question, well, which medium is going to touch all men and all women? And if you identify what that medium is, it might be a very expensive option. So the more narrowly defined that you make your target, the easier it is to market and reach that target. And so what we mean by targets are groups of individuals. If you're targeting individuals with your product or service, then you're doing what we call a B2C, a business to consumer marketing plan. If you're going after businesses, it's called B2B, business to business. And simply, your market are the groups of either individuals or businesses that have similar wants, needs, desires, and attractions, and interest in the same product or service. So what we recommend is that you take these large markets and break them down into smaller segments. So when you think about a segment, you can segment based on many different variables. And when you segment a market, you want to analyze each individual market to determine which market is ideal for you. When I first began my business as a consultant, I was going after large corporations. And someone said to me, well, how are you going to reach large corporations? Well, what's happened is the day that I started the business, it was sort of by happenstance. I was in a hotel on 42nd Street, and I was at the bar at the end of the day. And a person strikes up a conversation with me, and they just so happened to be a CEO of a company. And so I thought to myself, okay, CEOs come to New York for all different types of reasons, meetings, relationships. And what do they do at the end of the day? They go back to their hotels, and oftentimes they end up in the bar. So I got lucky. But with your business, we don't want you to get lucky. We want you to think about it beforehand. And in the beginning of the competition, I recommended that each and every one of you reach out to individuals who are currently in your industry, in a similar, if not the same exact type of business, and ask them simple questions. Number one, can you give me one piece of advice that will allow my business to grow from the startup phase to actually generating revenue? Another question that you could ask is, who is the ideal target that you're currently going after for your product or service? What are the marketing mechanisms that you utilize to reach them? And in asking this question, they're going to save you a ton of time and trouble. So if you haven't made the phone call, get on the phone, make the phone calls. How many of you remember the result of when I started making phone calls, what it was? Does anyone know? So I made a couple phone calls because during a workshop, I think it was 2 years ago, someone said to me, do you follow your own advice? And so I told that person, I said, your kung fu is good. And then I started making phone calls. And by the 7th phone call, that relationship got me onto television. So you've heard the saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. How many people have heard that? So I say this, if you don't ask, you don't get. But in addition to that, what's interesting is anytime you get into a tough spot, really tough spot, a real tough jam, and when you reach the end of your resources, you have no other options. What do most people typically do? Say again?
Panic.
Well, after you panic, then what do you do? What do you do after you panic? You've reached all your resources, and you don't know what else to do. And I'll give you, someone said give up. Now, New Yorkers don't give up. So most people In times of desperation, when they've extended all their resources, what they do is they simply cry out and they ask God to help them. Isn't that interesting? Some people who never go to church, don't believe in God, they'll just say that prayer. And what I thought was interesting is, well, if we have to wait till that point of desperation, why don't we just ask today? So, when you're asking for things as it relates to your business, ask for the most amazing things that you could imagine. Ask for a person that can help you define your marketing strategy. Ask for a person that can help you to identify leaders in your industry that can propel the growth of your business. Just ask, because you got nothing to lose in asking. And if you don't ask, you don't get it. Okay. So I'll get off the soapbox. So let's talk about market segmentation, how to break up your market. So demographic variables are one way to break up your market. And what I mean by demographic variables is if you have a group of individuals, look at your market from the standpoint of what is their gender, race, income, disabilities, are they homeowners, what is their employment status, what is their education. Think about all the individual characteristics that make up the group that you're going after. And I know that when you first look at this process, you say, well, wow, that's some work. Well, welcome to entrepreneurship. But I can guarantee you that after you go through this process to identify those variables, it's going to help you so much so down the line. So when a customer comes up to me and says, hey, I'd love to work with you, there's 3 questions that I ask. And based on those 3 questions, I know whether I can or cannot work with that customer. And you'll be able to do the same thing. You will know your customer versus someone who is not your customer. And one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to waste your time and effort on individuals that are not going to buy your product or service. So understanding the customer, breaking them down into segments using demographic variables help you to hyper-focus your marketing, your time, and your attention. And then there's geographic variables. Geographic variables are units that can maybe be considered in developing a marketing strategy, and it could be, are you going after local, regional, national, international, or intergalactic customers? That's a joke. So when you think about the consumers, there's demographics and geographics, but you can also, when you think about businesses, from a demographic standpoint, you can think about the types of businesses. Are they manufacturers, retailers, wholesalers? When you think about geographics, again, national, regional, urban, suburban, international. When you think about their arrangement, it could be whether they are private or public or independent. What are their financial condition? What is their growth probability? Are they a public company that trades stocks on the stock exchange? There's also psychographic variables. So psychographic variables are consumer characteristics such as their lifestyle. And when we say lifestyle, there are some individuals that go on 3-4 vacations a year. There's some individuals that don't go on vacation. There's some individuals that sign up for gyms in the month of January, and by the month of May, they haven't gone for 2 or 3 months. These are psychographic variables. Interest and attitudes. And if you notice in the United States, everyone has an interest about something. And the question is, what is your target interested in? What excites your target? What types of magazines do they read? What types of activities do they get engaged in? What type of lifestyle do they live? Because again, the more that you know about them, the easier it is for you to offer your product and service to them. And then there's product use variables. As it relates to your specific product, there might be multiple uses, and it's important to understand how customers are thinking about you. I'll give you one example. The toothbrush. Most of us, when we hold a toothbrush, we hold the toothbrush with our fingers, yes? Well, how many of you know that kids don't hold a toothbrush with their fingers, they hold the toothbrush with their hand? And there was one company that focused on product use as a marketing strategy, and what they did is they put out an advertisement that says, your kids don't hold a brush like this, they hold it like this. So they made a big handle on the toothbrush so it would be more stable in the hand of the child. Now, if you saw that commercial, you would say, I'm buying one of those for my kids. How many of you have kids? How many of you can't raise your arms? It's interesting. You raise your hand for who can't raise their arms. And it's also interesting that whatever your product or service is, sometimes you're not marketing the product directly to the intended user. In this case, you'll be marketing a brush that's going to be used by a child, but you're actually marketing to the parent. So the second step is you want to look at your competition. And in looking at the competition, you want to be able to leverage their expertise. There's something that they're doing correct in reaching the target market. So you want to identify what that is, and you want to copy that. Number two, you want to identify the markets that they're going after. You want to look at, do they advertise online? Do they do commercials? Are they doing radio? Are they doing direct mail campaigns? What is the structure of their advertisement? Analyze them as much as you can to determine every single thing that you can leverage. What are their pricing strategies? Pricing strategy is important because if you know the relative range of prices for a particular product or service that you're marketing, then you get a relative sense for where you can price your product or service. And then there's features and benefits. What's interesting is on Super Bowl Sunday, what was it, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm in Best Buy, and I look up and I see this television, and the salesperson comes up to me and he says, TV has picture-to-picture, 1080p, it has a voice remote, has all these things, and as he's giving all these features, I'm going, How many of you have done the head nod when a salesperson is giving you all the features? But then he leans forward and he says, if you buy this television today, you're going to feel like you're in the game. And as soon as he said this, I thought to myself, my wife's not going to be home for 2 hours. How quick can I get this television to my house in 2 hours? So I said to the salesperson, can you help me get this TV to my house in 2 hours? So he calls over a guy, and this is at the time that I lived in Brooklyn. This guy had a truck, got the television to the house, helped me sell my old television to my neighbor. And when my wife came in and she saw this big television in the living room, I said to her, thank you for my early Christmas gift. Now the reason I'm telling you this story is because when you're thinking about your product or service, oftentimes the small business owner focuses on features. It provides this, that, and the other. Your customer's going to do the head nod. But you have to identify what is the benefit to that customer. And that's, again, to those demographics, understanding who your customer is, what their pain points are, and also what their dream points are. Because on Super Bowl Sunday, I was dreaming of watching the game and feeling like I was there. So as soon as he said that, you're going to feel like you're in the game. For me, it was a no-brainer. And what's interesting is that television lasted about 4 years. About 4 years. And anyone ever have a television blackout on them? 1, 2? Well, I had a television blackout on me. And I was happy that I bought that was the one time I was happy I bought a warranty. Okay, customer service strategies. Have you ever bought a product and then the product failed and then you got on the phone to call the company and there was no one to talk to, no phone number, no nothing? And how did you feel? Betrayed. You said betrayed. So the point that I'm making is your competition may be offering some type of customer service. So determine what that customer service looks like, how the service person greets the customer. What do they offer them? Do they offer to exchange the product? Do they offer to repair the product? Do they offer a discount? So in analyzing the competition, you can determine whether you want to offer the same feature. And then promotion strategies. How do they promote their product or their service? What does their website look like? Do they have salespeople? Are they doing radio commercials? How are they promoting? Now, if you're talking to the competitor, and you ask the question, I'm curious, which promotion strategy is most effective for you? You may get an answer, you may not, but again, if you don't ask, you may not get it. And then identify marketing tactics and channels. So there's multiple marketing tactics and channels that can be utilized. But again, asking the question, doing the research is going to help to direct you. So, customers or questions that you want to be able to answer in your business plan. Who are the 5 nearest competitors? And that can be from a geographic standpoint. Who are your indirect competitors? Because oftentimes, you not only are competing directly against some other company, but you're competing indirectly with them as well. And the reason I say this is because imagine you sell hats and someone else sells scarves. Does a hat company compete with a scarf company? Yes or no? Yes. And the reason is because some people, instead of a hat, they wear a scarf on their heads. We have one example right here today, so thank you for coming to today's workshop. Then, is the business growing? Is it steady or declining? And the reason that you want to know if the business is growing or declining is because you don't want to mimic unsuccessful strategies. And one way that you can determine whether a company is growing or declining, you can simply call them up and ask basic questions. And what I mean by ask basic questions, you could ask to speak to the CEO, and you could say, hey, I'm very curious about your business, I've done some research, or I'd love to volunteer to come in and help out. And you'd be surprised at how many companies will open up their doors to allow you to come in and to volunteer. And I'd say that's one of the best ways to actually get experience in a business. If you don't have experience in the business, that's by simply volunteering. And by having an inside view of the business, you learn a wealth of information. So if any of you have an opportunity to volunteer with a company that's already doing what you want to do, it's one great way to get an inside perspective on how to grow a business, but also how to operate a business. So what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? There's also what are their opportunities and what are threats. It's called SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is something that you should be doing on as many competitors as you can find, and you can incorporate that into your business plan and analyze the competition. These are the strengths of the major companies that we're competing against, and this is how we're leveraging those strengths. And the same thing with weaknesses. These are the major weaknesses that we see, and this is what we're doing to take advantage of those weaknesses to create an advantage in the market. So gathering information about competitors. Of course, there is the internet. There's personal visits. There's what do customers say about competitors. Now, if they have a storefront, you can walk right up to someone that just walked out the door and say, I'm curious, what's your experience been like with this company? And most people will provide that information free of charge. They don't even think twice about it. They either say, hey, it's great, I love X, Y, Z, or if it's not so great, they'll say, one thing I really was disappointed about in this company was this. And if you ask enough customers about their experience, again, it can help you in the planning of your business. And then the advertisements. You can learn so much from a competitor based on the type of advertisement that they're posting. There's a company called What Runs Where. What Runs Where will tell you where your competition is actually posting ads on the internet. And so if you can determine where they're posting their ads, you can do what we call traffic hacking. You can post an ad on the same exact websites. And chances are then you will hack into the traffic of your competitor. Does that make sense? Because the customer is looking for a solution. And if they are presented with one option, they're going to more than likely go after that option. But if they're presented with two, well, let's say they see your ad instead of the competitor's ad, there's a chance for you to attract customers to come to your website. And I learned that strategy from a gentleman by the name of Russell Brunson. How many people have heard of Russell Brunson? Okay, so Russell Brunson is an internet marketer who's been in the business for, I'm going to say, over 15 years. And he's pretty extraordinary at what he does. And I'll talk about him a little bit later. So trade shows, industry associations, publications, news articles. Question?
I'll say there's one thing you don't have on there, which is buying their product or service.
Okay, thank you. So one recommendation is buying your competitor's product or service. And thank you for that. And the reason that I actually know that this is one of the great techniques is because that's one thing that Russell Brunson promotes. If you buy your product, if you buy your competitor's product or service, if it is affordable, then you can analyze the product and look at it from the standpoint of what it is that you can improve, what is it that you can add, and that again gets into features and benefits. Questions?
Did you say you can find that information?
What information?
The information as far as like the ads and stuff like that.
So if you're researching online ads for a competitor, the name of the website is called What Runs Where. What Runs Where. You can also do Google searches. You can do Google searches. How many of you know that you can do image searches in Google? So if you go to the company's website and if you take a picture of their logo, you can then search for where that logo is also found on the internet, doing picture searches. Excellent question. So industry surveys and databases here at the library. So how many of you have already met with a research librarian here at the library? Okay. One of the best ways to take advantage of the resources here is by getting to know one of the research librarians My secret weapon when it comes to research that I can't find, her name is Maddie Cohen. So utilize the resources. Research librarians are absolutely amazing. And they're not just amazing for the competition, but they're amazing for when you're in your business and you need to get some intelligence that you may not want to pay the full price for. And I think I shared with you all in the orientation, there's one such report called the IBIS World Report. How many people know about IBIS? So IBIS World Reports cost $1,000. And they give a full overview of your industry, the competitors, the dynamics, key performance indicators, financial numbers, cost breakdown of your industry. And once you identify what your NAICS code is, your NAICS code, once you have that code, then you can reap the benefits of the databases by using that code. So if you don't know what the NAICS code is, right after this workshop, work with a research librarian to determine what that code is, and then get your IBIS World Report in conjunction with a wealth of other databases that are available here. And again, that $1,000 report is free here at the library. So let's talk about marketing strategy. Question?
The databases that you're talking about that are at the library, are they only here at the Science and Business Library, or can we find them at any university?
So the question is, are the library databases that are available here at Civil also available at the other libraries? The answer is yes. But there's some databases that are not available from home. And
Sorry, the last time the librarian said some of the databases are available at all libraries and some aren't. So it's best to
Thank you.
come here.
thank you for that clarification. So Civil is the best library in the city to get access to all of the databases. And they even put out a periodical that says databases available from, well, on the database sheet, they will put a little home, and that little home icon will let you know that you can access that database from your actual home. But most of them you have to be here, or just logged into their internet. So marketing strategy determines how your business fits into the marketplace. If you've ever heard the word marketing mix or the 4 Ps, it's all the same thing. It's marketing strategy. So just like when we talked about the 4 Cs of a diamond, the 4 Ps in marketing, there are 4 independent decisions that you're going to make as a business owner that again is going to determine whether when your customer sees your marketing, whether they lean in or whether they don't pay any attention. And so the 4 are product, price, place, and promotion. So in the course of this hour and 15 minutes, we're going to cover what some professors say is not achievable because it takes a semester-long time to actually understand each of the principles. But you guys are New Yorkers, you guys can do it, yes? Yes. Okay, so let's do it. Let's get into the first P. So when we talk about product decisions, we don't mean what product are you going to sell. We mean the term refers to tangible physical products as well as services, but decisions around that product. It could be the brand name. It could be decisions in terms of the functionality of your product or service. Styling, quality, safety, packaging, whether repairs and support are offered, a warranty, and are there accessories and services associated with your product or service. So even though the term is called product decision, it relates to products as well as physical products as well as services. Is that clear? So when looking at the competition, you want to look at what's the brand, how functional is their product or service, the styling, the quality, the safety. You want to look at all of that and determine whether you're going to mimic it, improve it, or just not take it into consideration at all. So some effective strategies for startups. One is concentrating on a very narrow product line. How many of you remember when Yahoo first came out? When Yahoo first came out, when you went to their website, did you know that there was one icon on the screen for the email, and that was it. If you go to the Yahoo page now, your eyes sort of swirl around because they have news, they have sports, they have so many different options. But they started out initially with just one offering. And I always recommend business owners, find that one thing. If you're struggling with what you should offer, figure one thing out first. Take that to market, generate some revenue, then think about diversification as a secondary option. Some of you are just wedded to offering a suite of services or a suite of products, perfectly fine, but I always recommend that you start with something and get traction in that one area. Number two, developing a highly specialized product or service. So when you think about bikes, you have your basic bike, and then you have your high-end bikes that cost anywhere from 10, 15, 20,000 and up. Some of you may go so specialized in your product because you're going after a very exclusive niche. That's perfectly fine as well. And then there's the product service package. You're offering your product or service in conjunction with some type of service. So when you think about Peloton, they don't just sell bikes. They also sell what? That screen that comes with it? They're also selling classes, and you can get direct access to trainers. So they're providing a product that's also coupled with a service. So the two together become a unique offering. And they were one of the first to actually do it. So now they have a bunch of copycats. And so think about these are all product decisions. Decisions that you can make to better engage your customer. So when you're looking at your competition, think about the features that they offer and determine whether those features make sense from a standpoint of cost, because when you add features to your product or service, there's an associated cost. And think about lean methodology. Lean methodology talks about the minimum viable product. What is the cheapest thing that you can offer to the market to generate a sale? When you start with your MVP, then you can think about what types of bells and whistles you can add to that service. But first, find out what the MVP is, because the MVP is going to start developing revenue. Oftentimes, business owners are trying to create the Rolls Royce, but the Rolls Royce is expensive to start, it's expensive to market for some of you, while others of you may have access to additional resources, perfectly fine. But think about what is the minimum viable product that you can actually bring to market. And there's a whole host of videos and information on the internet around lean methodology. So features and consumer benefits, again, when analyzing the competition, talking to potential customers, you can look at the features of the product or service, but you're only going to derive the benefit to the customer by actually speaking to the customer. So a foundation for building promotional and advertisement programs. When you learn all these things, then you can incorporate that information into your actual marketing and promoting material. Now let's talk about price. So we're going to do this exercise very quickly. I want you to close your eyes. Everyone has their eyes closed? Everyone has their eyes closed? Thank you. So I want you to think about the first thing that comes to your mind when I tell you that my shoes cost $6,000. Just yell out, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Ferragamo, the brand. Who said? Say again? Quality? Good material?
I just think you got money.
I just think you got money? Excessive overspending?
Custom made.
Custom made? Say again? Allen Edmonds. They're actually cheaper. Allen Edmonds are cheaper. They're about $600. Now, with your eyes still closed, if I told you that I paid $39.95 for my shoes, what's the first thing that you think of?
Smart man.
I heard a bunch of pay less. Someone said smart man. Economical. Say again? One more. Made in China. Who said pleather? Okay, now you can open your eyes. So the point that I'm making is that making one small change to a price, you see how your perception has changed? You didn't even see the product, but as soon as you saw the price, it drove a certain perception. So when you're playing with price of your product or service, think about the perception that you want to draw in the mind of your consumer. So again, it's one of the individual P's that so many people, when they're thinking about it, they're not using the wealth of resource and analysis. Because I always ask the question, if the highest priced competitor is charging $100 and the cheapest priced competitor is charging $25, where do you price your product? You would say, what would you say?
85.
85? Most people say somewhere in the middle. Now there was a company called Giorgio and Amber. Giorgio and Amber sold true denim jeans. Does anyone know the price range for true denim jeans? When was the last time you bought a pair of jeans?
Like a month ago.
Like a month ago. How much did you spend? $70. So this company charged $1,000 for the jeans. Because, again, most people will price somewhere in the middle, and so he went above the market. And the reason that he went above the market is because he was looking to brand his company, because as soon as people heard $1,000, what's so special about these jeans? And he got a couple celebrities to wear the jeans. He took the picture, posted them on the website, and he made a ton of money. And then a few years later, he came back with the same exact product. He put a different stitch on the back pockets and called them Songs of Freedom and charged 20-something bucks. So I said he was like a real cowboy because he hit them high and then he hit them low. But again, this is all pricing strategy. And he sold thousands of these jeans, all using pricing strategy as a marketing technique. Is this helpful? And I remember I was in his office one day, and so he picks up the phone and he hangs up the phone. And I said, who was it? He said, that wasn't my customer. I said, how do you know it wasn't your customer? He says, because they asked me, why am I charging $1,000 for my jeans? Now, one of the priceless piece of marketing that I can give you is do not charge your customer what they can afford. Charge the customer what your product or service is worth. This will save you millions of dollars over the next 10 to 20 years. If someone cannot afford your service, that's not your customer. And the assumption is that you've done all your research around who your target customer is. And just this morning, I had an individual saying to me, hey, I would really love to work with you, but I can only pay you this amount. And so what I did was I recommended organizations that can provide them services for free that was in alignment with who they are. But do not work with customers that are not your target. It only hurts your business. And I had one business that was $700,000, and this business owner said, I can't go above $1 million. And then communicated to me that they were the best in the business. And I simply said to them, your prices are too low. In 14 weeks, they went from $700,000 to $4.2 million in 14 weeks because they began charging what they were worth. So when you think about pricing, your pricing strategy for your product or service, there's so many different strategies, and these are just a few. Price skimming. You've seen the word suggested retail price. So as soon as you see suggested retail price, but today's price is something different, in your mind you see savings. Oh, I'm getting a deal today. But it's just a marketing strategy. I could put suggested retail price of my consulting services are $10,000, but today I'm only charging $5,000 to you. That's a savings of $5,000. Versus if I just said it's $5,000. And again, this is all psychology. Volume discounts, wholesale pricing, cash and early payments discounts. If you pay us this week, we'll give you a discount, but that discount is taking into consideration the real price. Then there's seasonal pricing, bundling, price flexibility, price discrimination. This is a beautiful one. How many of you knew that Bausch & Lomb sold the same exact product in 2 different packagings in 2 different markets?
Yep.
How many of you knew that?
Who's that?
Bausch & Lomb. It's a contact lens solutions company. All that was pricing strategy. So when you're researching how to price your product or service, look at the competition, look at the various strategies, see which one fits best for you. Make sense? And make sure you articulate that in your business plan. Because I've seen people say, we sell car washes and we're going to charge $10 for a car wash. Well, we want to know why you're charging $10. Because the reason that you're charging that $10 also is related to the target market that you're going after. Is this helpful? Is this helpful? Is this? Okay, let's continue. So, determining price levels and or pricing policies. There's some companies that will actually give you credit. How many of you have actually bought something on credit at a store that the store gave you? That's another pricing strategy. So, your pricing levels determine your total revenue. And in the orientation, or was it workshop 1? I think it was workshop 1. We said your target revenue for your business should include the salary that you would love to make, enough money to go on the dream vacation, enough enough money so that you can save the amount of money you want to make for the year, added to the expenses of the business. That should be your target revenue for the very first year. And once you know the target revenue, you can look at the product or service and divide the price of your product or service into the target revenue to determine how much of that product or service you have to sell. And I always tell everyone, do not plan to work in your business 40 hours out of the week. When you're planning your business, think about how you can work in your business 20 hours out of the week to hit your financial targets. Because if you plan to work 40 hours to get to a certain level in your business, think about it. Who wants to work 40 hours? Now, many of you may end up working 40 hours to grow the business, but don't plan to work at maximum capacity to get to a certain number. Think about how you can get to higher numbers in the least amount of time. Because as a CEO of your business, oh, by the way, if you haven't given yourself a title, today I hereby knight each and every one of you CEO of your business. Because if you look at yourself as the Chief Executive Officer, you won't look at yourself as a worker. And Chief Executive Officers focus on creating time and resource in their business. And what I mean by time is everything that you're investing your time and energy into developing this business is hopefully going to save you time, because the activities that you should be involved in is delegating to someone that can do the work as opposed to you doing all the work. If you do all the work, you're the Chief Everything Officer, not the Chief Executive Officer. And so the second thing that you want to invest time and energy into is creating a resource. How can I create a resource in order to get this done? Because in order to hit this revenue, I don't want to be working 40 hours a week and me doing all the work. I want to think about what types of resources I can develop that are ultimately going to save me time. Did everyone get that? Yes. Okay, so write that one down. Write that one down. That's in one of the top 10. So generally, high prices mean lower volume and vice versa. Small businesses often command higher prices because of personalized service. So if you can add some personalization into your business, then you can actually charge a higher price. And if you've gone to an amusement park, you paid $50 to get into the amusement park, and then someone comes along and says, hey, for another $50, we can give you a fast pass. And you look left and you look right to the people, and they're like standing there pouring down sweating, and you almost feel guilty in saying, give me that pass. But that pass affords you the ability to now get in front of every single line. And what did they just sell you? What did they just sell you that cause you to spend more money? What did they just sell you? Comfort, time, privilege, and convenience. So if there's a convenience factor to your business, figure it out real quick, because you don't have to price your product or service in that range. You can go above that range. Helpful? All right. So pricing strategies, things to consider: cost, customer expectation, competition, your goals, and your brand. So all of these 4 items determine the price of your product or service. So think about the cost that you're incurring in the business to produce the product or service. Add it up. Figure out what it is. And don't forget to add the cost of your time. So if I were to hire you to work a job, how much would you charge me? How much would you say, well, this is how much I'm worth on an hourly basis? Does everyone know their hourly rate? $100 an hour. Perfectly fine. The hourly rate that you're worth is not the hourly rate that you're being paid right now in your job. How many people know that? Because the reason that you're here is because you're looking to realize your true value. So take into consideration your true value when you're thinking about the cost. Think about customer expectations. Because if I were to say to you, I have a computer that I want to give to everyone here today, and it's only going to cost you $1, you would go, excuse me? $1? Well, if it costs $1, then it can't be worth anything, because you have a certain expectation around what the price of something should be. So get a clear sense of what the customer is expecting, and again, based on that relative range. Then there's what profit do we want to require? I've seen too many businesses have huge sales. When I say huge, I mean in the millions of dollars. But when it comes to their profits are less than 1%. Now, if you make $1 million in your business, what's 1% of $1 million? Anyone know? $1,000. You said 100? What's 1%?
It's 100,000.
So $1 million, 10% of $1 million is 100,000. 10% is 100,000. So 1% is what? $10,000. So just imagine if you worked all you could for the year, you made $1 million, but you only profited $10,000. So when you're thinking about the pricing of your product or service, take into consideration how much profit that you want to make in your business. And understand whatever you charge, it's very easy to go down in prices, but it's very difficult to go up. Very difficult. And then competitors. What are competitors charging? And again, you do not have to be relegated to the range of the lowest price competitor and the highest price competitor, because you can go above the highest price when you take those other factors into consideration, such as convenience, privilege, social status, and other things. So let's talk about place. Place is distribution. It's about getting the product to the customer and the customer experience when they're actually engaging in the purchasing process. Think about distribution channels, market coverage, inclusive, selective, or exclusive distribution, specific channel members, inventory management, warehousing, distribution centers, order processing, transportation, and the reverse logistics. That is, if someone has to send the product or service back to you, is it easy for them to do? This all plays into your marketing strategy. Now, if you walk into a store on Fifth Avenue and they hand you a glass of champagne, what's the first thing that you think to yourself? Say again? One more time? Celebration. You know what I think? I'm going to be spending some money today. Much more probably than I intended this event. All because of the place. Now, if you think about some of these options, you ever seen the racks of clothing that look like they just came off the back of a truck? And they say, hey, we're looking to sell these right now, right here. How much money you got? You ever had that in New York City? I think New York City is probably unique to that experience. And what you do is you look left and right because you see what? What's the first thing that you think? You said shade. Did you say shade? Say again? Stolen goods. So some see stolen goods, some see, hey, that's my coat. So again, there's a perception based on the place. Street level, street fairs. When you go to a street fair, there's a certain perception that you have in terms of what the price of an item is going to be. When someone calls you on the phone or is selling directly in front of you, you have a certain perception of just around what the price is going to be. E-commerce on the internet, you have a certain feel for how the website looks on whether it's safe or not. Wholesale. As soon as you hear the word wholesale, you know, hey, I'm getting this cheaper than retail. And then retail storefront. When you're in that store, and again, there's an opportunity to put the suggested retail in the actual price. It's all driving perception. And then established distributors. I met a guy who buys wholesale from companies that have excess inventory. And he said to me, if you've ever gone to a store and bought, let's say, a polo shirt or a golf shirt or some item from a TJ Maxx or Odd Lot or a dollar store, he says you can thank me for that. Because he goes to companies and buys the excess inventory, really, really cheap, and then sells it to these stores at a price cheaper than the price that we see. And he's made a business out of it. So when you understand that dynamic, it's almost like the food chain. There's certain who consume the product in the regular store because they don't mind paying the price that they pay because that's a part of their lifestyle. And they like telling others that they paid what they paid. And then there's others that want to save. When you think about your customer, figure out what bucket they're in. So does everyone understand how place derives a certain perception from the customer? And when you're thinking about where you're going to sell your product and how you're going to distribute it, it's going to drive a certain perception. And then promotion. Promotion is probably the easiest of all the P's because this is where most small businesses focus. They focus on how they're going to get the word out. How are they going to tell the customer about their product or service? How are you going to inform them? And so you have many different types of promotional strategies. Push versus pull, advertising, personal selling, sales promotions, public relations, marketing communications, email, direct mail, television commercials, radio, you name it. There are a whole host of promotional activities that you can engage in with your product or service. But what you want to engage in are the promotional activities that make most sense for your business. And again, in analyzing the competition, seeing what they're doing, they can help you to identify the activities that you should be involved in that are the most effective. Does that make sense? There's one program that I began promoting, it was about 10 years ago. And it was a brand new service offered to small businesses. We did radio, we did television, we did community newspapers, we did a whole host of different options to market that service. I think at one point we had hit over 1,000 newspapers. And what we learned from that process was that we could not market the service from a holistic standpoint. The service was so expansive that when people saw an ad, the ad could not capture everything that it was. Even a radio commercial, there were radio companies that called us up and said, hey, we know that your ad did not work with that company, but if you allow us to create your own ad for you, we're sure that we can improve your response rate. They all failed. And what we ended up doing was offering people an opportunity to experience the service. And once we did that, sales went through the roof. So when it comes to promotional activities, you don't want to spend that time trying to figure it out. If you're offering something new and different, unlike anyone else, you may have to go through that discovery process. And when you test those markets, test with small budgets, not large budgets. Does that make sense? Okay. So this marketing decisions areas include advertising, salesmanship, and how many of you are natural born sellers? How many of you have never sold anything in your life? How many of you are somewhere in the middle? Okay. So if you're not great at sales and your business requires salesmanship, then simply hire someone for that role. Does that make sense? All right. So, how does one implement their marketing strategy? What specific activities should you be involved in? When will those activities be launched? How will those activities be performed? Who is going to be responsible? These are all questions that we want to know when we read your plan. So when you develop your marketing strategy, use this as a checklist. How will the planned activities be monitored and tracked? That is the most important thing that you can do as it relates to marketing. Because if you're not monitoring and tracking your marketing strategy, you don't know where your dollars are going. You might have sales, but if you're doing 3 different things, you don't know which one was more effective than others. And ultimately, how much will those activities cost? We want to see that in your plan. So I'm often asked the question, what's the best tactic for my business? Well, in this list, there's over 128 different tactics. And most people can tell you what they think, but someone who is involved in the day-to-day of your business or a similar business can narrow down this list of 128 to maybe 10, no more than 10 different activities. Now, your business may require you to do a host even above 10, but do the research, ask the question, and determine what the costs are. Now, I'm always asked the question about social media. What's the best social media channel? Well, each of the different social media channels address different markets. And now there's statistics out there that you can actually use information to determine which channel is appropriate for you. I often hear, well, I think that Instagram is going to be good for my business. And I say, well, why do you think Instagram is good for your business? And they say, because I'm on Instagram all the time. Well, the question is not what you're on. The question is, what is your customer on? What does your customer look at on a regular basis? Is your competitor using social media? What channels do they use? So these are statistics in terms of, if you look at LinkedIn, it says users spend 17 minutes. If you look at Facebook, it says most popular. Network with 79% of internet users. If you look at Twitter, it says 91% of millennials. So use that data to align with the target customer that you're going after. So in your plan, if your target are millennials, you will say, we're using Twitter as a means by which to reach millennials. We understand that 79% of millennials are on Twitter. It all makes sense. It all wraps in beautifully. Now, the next slide is social media effective use. So if you look here, it says the user role, it says news feed, Facebook, it says my friends, YouTube, my TV, Instagram, my scrapbook. Interesting. We didn't have this information 5 years ago, but we have this data now. So use this research in determining which tactics you use for your business. And we know that social media is an inexpensive option, so I'm certain that many of you are going to be using social media if, again, it makes sense for your business. And I will say that social media is not an effective use for every single business. Because if you're going after government contracts, individuals who are involved in that process, they're not on social media looking for business. They're looking at bids. Who is the least expensive, responsible bid? Nothing to do with social media. But if that is changing in your industry, and if you see some uptick, then maybe that is a good option, a resource for you. Now, 2011, 9 years ago, there were roughly 150 marketing technologies, online marketing technologies. You see how many there are now? 7,040. Big jump in 9 years. So when you're thinking about using marketing technologies, how do you go through 7,000 different options? The answer is you don't. You analyze your competition. Who's best in the game? What do they do? Who's second in the game? What do they do? Who's third in the game? Mimic what they're doing. Let larger companies spend the cash on options of exploration. You spend your time modeling the success of their research. Again, focusing on activities that save you time. Now, this landscape, this is the marketing technology landscape, and this was as of April 2019. It's ridiculous. It really is. And there's new things coming out every day that we just have no clue about. Now, if you're using Twitter, if you're using LinkedIn, if you're using Facebook, many people are posting solutions that are effective in various groups. And all you got to do is read it. All you have to do is subscribe to certain channels, subscribe to certain topics, and the information is there. We live in the information age. And what does that mean? It means that the answer is there, but you just have to ask the right question. And the question that you should be asking is, what are the least expensive marketing techniques, channels, and tactics that are going to yield the most amazing results for my business? What are the least expensive that are going to yield the most amazing results? And how can I partner with another company at no expense to take advantage of much more expensive marketing technologies? Did everyone get that? How can I partner with another company to get access to expensive marketing technologies to drive an amazing result? Because just because something is more expensive doesn't mean that it's not accessible. Make sense? Okay. So we won't even talk about marketing automation, and I'll give you one such strategy. So if you're going after individuals, there are marketing automation tools, and one of them, there's a host of them. There's one that comes to mind, it's called Octopus. So I can go inside of LinkedIn, and I can outline, and there's an option in LinkedIn called Sales Navigator. And in Sales Navigator, I can put in the demographics of individuals that I'm looking for. I can put in their title, I can put in the size of their company, I can put a whole host of things. And Sales Navigator will give me all the individuals, give me all the names inside of LinkedIn. And what I can do, what LinkedIn wants you to do, is then click on each person's name and send them an email or text message, or a message inside of LinkedIn. How long would it take for you to send 100 messages in a day? Someone said it would take the whole day. So then comes all these other companies, and one company is called Octopus. So Octopus, click of a button, takes all those contacts right out of LinkedIn. And then you have a screen, it says type in your message. It says dear, and then it will insert the person's name. And then you type your message, and then you click run. And then you go have lunch. and 100 messages will go out to a whole host of individuals that you have selected. That's just one marketing automation software. Now, LinkedIn caught on to this. And so if you go above 100, they say, wait a minute, we think that you're using automation software, and what they would do is then send you a warning message that potentially can shut down your LinkedIn account. So the reason that I bring up this example is because on the surface, this seems like a really cool thing to do. But LinkedIn doesn't allow it, and they will actually ban you from LinkedIn altogether. So there may be a consultant or someone that is introducing certain tactics and techniques to you, but those tactics or techniques are bad for your business. They're bad for your business. And there's a difference between white hat techniques and black hat. This is considered a black hat technique. You want to use white hat techniques, which are generally accepted techniques in marketing. Is that helpful? Okay, so some e-marketing resources. How many of you are going to be marketing and promoting something online? Okay, a few. How many of you have a physical product or service that you're going to be delivering, but not marketing specifically online? How many of you are going to do a storefront, some type of brick and mortar? Okay, all right. So, freelancers. There's a website called Upwork, freelancer.com, Upstack, Fiverr. How many of you have heard of Fiverr? Need a logo developed? $5, easy. Toptal and Legit. Is it Linkit? I don't even know. But these are some freelance resources that you can utilize. E-commerce platform builders. If you're looking to build online funnels, clickfunnels.com, excellent resource. This is an organization run by a gentleman by the name of Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson, when he was in college, he created a website that said, I'm going to create a potato gun because in Idaho all we have is potatoes, and I want you to tell me what you want this potato gun to do. So folks wrote in, I want it to be metal, I want the potato to fly 150 feet, I want to have a loader so I can load up 10 potatoes. They gave him all this feedback. And he says, no, if you don't mind putting your contact information, I'll let you know when the gun is produced. So after he got all this feedback from all these folks, he went out and had the product developed. And then he went and contacted every single person that gave him some feedback and said, your gun is ready. I would like to take your order now. Now what was masterful about what he did was, instead of doing the research, he allowed the market to tell him what they wanted. And I always tell all my clients, the market, your customer, is going to tell you what they love, what they like, but also what they dislike. And the quicker you can get that information, the quicker you can offer them that bundle of satisfaction. And he became a millionaire in college by selling potato guns. So then when he graduated, he created a company called .com Secrets. And he would give all the secrets around how to get a copywriter, how to get a web developer, how to get people who can design and develop your product, and how to sell online. And what he noticed is that many people had difficulty pulling all the resources together. So he created a company called clickfunnels.com, where you can drag and drop images, text into one place. So now you're no longer dependent upon a developer, and even incorporated analytics, even incorporated sales scripts, all in one place. And this company grew to $100 million in 3 years. It's a great resource. And some of the copycat companies are Lead Pages and Instapages and Optimized Press. So if you're looking to create an online presence, a sales funnel, in essence, getting leads to come in, and then you marketing and promoting to those leads, that's a great resource.
Excuse me.
Question?
The potato guy is ClickFunnels?
The potato guy is ClickFunnels.
Okay.
He wrote 2 books, 2 New York Times bestsellers. One is called .com Secrets, and the other book is called Expert Secrets. And he has an excellent sales process inside of, I believe it's .com Secrets. It's an excellent high-ticket sales process. What to say to prospects when you're trying to sell them high-ticket items. He lays it all out in the book. So, one question.
You said that other thing was Octopus.
So Octopus is that service that will do those automated messages within LinkedIn. But again, if you go above a certain number, LinkedIn will ban you. Okay. And I've seen it happen to folks. So how many years does it take to build up a LinkedIn presence? How long? How long does it take to build up a great presence? Years. How long does it take to get banned from LinkedIn? A couple days. So be very careful, especially when you see these techniques and you hear from these consultants and they say, oh, this is a great way to grow your business. Determine whether it's white hat or black hat. So online marketing education. How many of you knew that Facebook has a program called Blueprint? One person. Facebook has a program called Blueprint. There's another company called HubSpot and Marketo, automated marketing. And guerrilla marketing. Everyone knows what guerrilla marketing is? So just imagine a guy in a guerrilla suit comes running in and says, get your cover page done tomorrow, by tomorrow. You guys will remember that. Because it's guerrilla, it's unorthodox, it's unexpected, highly interactive. And some of you may get involved in different types of guerrilla marketing techniques. There's a bunch of them listed there, and there are others. But again, what's appropriate for your business? Because not every single marketing tactic or channel is appropriate. You have to determine which ones are appropriate. Do the research, ask the questions. So which medium should I use? That's a question we get often asked. You know, do I do web, do I do print ad, do I do TV, do I do viral marketing, do I do public speaking and seminars? Which one? Well, one tool that you can use is this. And on the left-hand column, it says the type of marketing. Then there's what is the cost, medium, high, low. What is the reach? Is it targeted? Is it broad? Is it low? As it relates to your specific market. And again, this is something that you do after you have defined what your target market is. Is there a dialogue that's two-way? Am I getting feedback from the market that I'm addressing, or is it just one way? Is it easy to measure the performance of the tactic or channel? If I do a direct mail campaign, I send out, let's say, 1,000 letters to potential customers. So I sent out 1,000 letters, and maybe it cost me $250 for postage. And then all of a sudden, I start getting hits to my website. How can I measure the effectiveness of the marketing campaign? I spent $250. I started getting some hits to my website. Is it a direct correlation, yes or no? Maybe, maybe not. But if in the direct mail campaign, I gave them a certain coupon code that says 10% off, type in this code, then I can measure how effective that direct mail campaign was. Does that make sense? So every single campaign that you initiate, every single marketing strategy that you implement, think about how you can create a mechanism by which to track the performance of that campaign. Because tracking the performance of that campaign will determine whether you want to mimic or continue to use that channel. And then effectiveness, that's how you determine effectiveness, by actually doing the measurement. And if you include something like this in the appendix of your business plan, you'll say in your plan, we've decided to engage in the following tactics in order to market and promote our service. Please see selecting marketing elements, analysis in the appendix. How do the judges look at you now? Wow. They took the feedback directly from the workshop, implemented it within their business. We've had conversations with various individuals in our industry that told us not to spend money here, so we focused our efforts on this, versus these are the 5 things that we're doing. We hope that they're going to be successful. 2 different approaches, one strategic, one not. In the competition, you want to be as strategic as possible, and this stuff takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So if you're one of the what did we say? If you're in that group of, what's the title I gave you? The procrastinators group? This will not work for you, because this takes time. You can't do this in 1 week. So again, if you're in the procrastination club, you're hereby kicked out. So once you get a better sense for your target market, there are various resources here at the library to determine the habits of the target market, and one such resource is called MediaMark and Simmons Media. So it will show you how to select the best channels to reach your customers, and to provide information on the media habits, what radio stations, type of music, what magazines, demographic characteristics, exposure patterns to various media. That resource is here. this is an underutilized resource. And what we've heard from applicants to the competition is, well, I waited till the last minute, so I wrote up a description as best I could in my plan of what I thought my target market was, and I didn't have an opportunity to look at the database at the library. We've heard that all too often. So again, start as early as you can, because once you choose your target, then you can determine how to reach them using this resource. Then the standard rated data service, it's going to tell you local media channels, the pricing, because when you're saying, hey, we're going to do an ad in the New York Times, well, we want to know the price of that, and how does that play into your income statement? So it's one thing to say, this is what we want to do, but we also want to know what the cost is, and you can get the cost, and it's also called the SRDS. Then there's the Gale Directory of Publications and Broadcast Media. It also demonstrates advertising rates, circulation statistics, local programming, and names of key personnel across 37,000 newspapers. So how are we going to measure the success of the campaign? You can use a profit and loss statement, you can use a break-even analysis, you can look at return on investment. We spent this much, we made that much. Conversion rates, you know, we have sent out messages to this many people, this is how many actually responded. And then the cost per customer acquired. What is the customer acquisition cost? What is that rate? How many of you watch Shark Tank? So one question that they ask most often is, what is the cost to acquire a customer? And if you don't know the answer, reach out to an expert, someone who's already doing it, ask the question. If you ask the question, if they know it, more than likely they'll tell you. If they don't know it, ask them if you can access resources that can get you to that number. But you want to get a clear sense for what this is. And very few people in the competition take the time and energy to figure out this number. If I told you the number of times we had blank stares during the final presentations, I'm curious, what is the customer acquisition cost? They freeze. So this is a question that I'm telling you we're going to ask you in the final presentation. That's a number that you want to know. Because if the customer acquisition cost is $3,000, you need to know that as early as possible. If it's $300, you need to know that as early as possible. Question?
How will you know until you implement it how many customers you're going to actually acquire from a particular strategy?
So the question is, how will I know what the cost is until you actually do it? The way that the best word I'm going to say is, the way that you get the best estimate is by doing the research, analyzing the competition, asking experts who are currently doing it, who are addressing your same market. So if I sell hats, I'm going to go to the nearest hat companies, as many hat companies as I can contact. I'm going to reach out to the owner. Hello, my name is, and I'm in the New York Startup Business Plan Competition, and I'm dreaming of doing a hat business. But I'm really curious, when you first began the company, how much did it cost you to acquire one customer? Ask the question. Not how much does it cost you to acquire them now, when the business is mature, but how much did it cost you in the very early stages? Most business owners are comfortable sharing that number, because it's not now. It's not what are you doing now. It's what did it cost then. And then you can ask questions. What types of things were you doing? What types of things were not successful? People are willing to tell you what did work. Some may not be as willing to tell you what is working, but ask the question. Because the more people you ask, it's called the law of averages. Eventually, someone's going to tell you. Eventually. But you got to reach out. Question? Advertising and sales. So the question is, are we taking into consideration in that cost, the cost to produce the product?
Sometimes if you have a visual, sometimes you need that to show in the, for example, we post on Instagram, right? You need the actual product to show.
So if you're creating an advertising piece in Instagram, there's a cost associated with developing that image. So yes, that would play in because it's part of your campaign. So it's part of your campaign cost. Okay, let me continue. So this is one way to measure the success of a campaign. It's very straightforward. It's from a website called Marketing Today, and it takes the total number of pieces of a mailing, the total program cost, what the response rate was, the conversion rate, and the average profit per sale. And again, the slides are available online, so you don't have to take pictures of the screens. And there's a whole host of tools like this, and just simply Google how to measure the effectiveness of a campaign. This is a marketing budget and schedule. If you notice the months across the top, the marketing tactic down the left side. This is now, you're communicating to the judges, this is what we did, this is when we did it, and this is how much it cost. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So you can articulate your entire marketing strategy right here. Well, not the entire, but just the piece, the promotional aspect of it. This is what we did, this is how much it cost. So some print resources here at the library. There's the library catalog, catalog.nypl.org. There's the Green Book, which is a list of market research companies and services published by the American Marketing Association. Before you send any company a check, make sure that you've spoken to at least 5 to 10 of their previous clients and determine what their experience was like and whether whatever they paid, they got a good return on their investment. Make sense? Okay. So then there are marketing associations. There's American Marketing Association, Direct Marketing Association, Marketing Research Association. So when you're doing your research around getting to your market, you can contact these associations for best practices as it relates to your industry. So for advertising agencies, there's a standard directory of advertising agencies. And again, always ask for client testimonials, but more importantly, you will speak directly to previous clients. So some key takeaways: research your industry and your competitors. Do SWOT analysis. Mimic everything that's great about them and leverage anything that's not so great. Clearly define your target market. And again, it takes a lot of research to finally identify what that group is. But once you do, it helps you with your marketing strategies and even the cost of the different types of techniques that you utilize. So develop that marketing strategy. Again, those 4 key decisions, and articulate that within your plan. How you came to the decisions around the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. Select appropriate vehicles, because again, realize that some vehicles could hurt your business. And again, white hat versus black hat. And integrate marketing throughout your entire plan. Integrate marketing from the management team. Who's responsible? Clearly defining the target market. Developing a marketing schedule. The budget associated cost in the income statement, because one year someone said that they were going to do a Super Bowl commercial. So we went directly to the financials and we saw $300, but we all know that Super Bowl commercials cost a lot more. Review sample marketing plans. You can do that by simply Googling them. There are sample plans here at the library. And again, Google sample marketing plans plus the name of your product or service. So now we're going to turn it over to questions. There's a microphone right there behind the projector. If you have any questions, feel free. The website to get these slides is NYPL, New York Public Library, .org/BIZ plan. I'll show it to you. NYPL.org. That's for New York Public Library /BIZPLAN. Everyone see that? NYPL.org/BIZBizPlan. So you scroll down on the left side. You see where it says workshops? Click on workshops. Scroll down again. Workshop number 1, click to view. Workshop number 2, which is today, click to view. And if you missed the physical orientation, It says view the orientation and take quiz. Oh, right here. View the expanded slides from the in-person orientation. And this says view the in-person orientation video. Everyone see that? And they're going to create a video for today's workshop if you want to experience this all over again. Okay, any other questions? Typically, your customer acquisition cost takes into consideration how much money you spend. Does that make sense?
Not time. Right.
Not necessarily time.
Right, but I can price my time.
Yes, you can.
So, for example, if I give $50 for 1 hour, that has to be included in my acquisition cost. Right?
You can include it, but here's the variable. The variable is, it's not going to take the same amount of time with every customer. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do a guesstimation on average. If that makes sense?
Yes.
So when you give your final presentation, you can say, we priced our hourly rate at $50 an hour, and on average, it takes us about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to convert a client. So we then looked at our average cost to acquire a customer based on time is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Now the other question is, how did that customer come into your store? What money did you spend to get their attention, to be able to engage them? You also have to take that into consideration. So if it was a direct mail campaign, email, or otherwise, consider those costs as well. Okay?
Yes.
Great presentation, by the way, thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to know, in addition to .com secrets and expert secrets, are there any other books that you really recommend that's like on the top of your list as far as reading goes?
So it really depends on your business, your expertise, and what you're looking to do. What I don't want to do is blab off something that I liked and that I enjoyed that was specific to me, that may not be specific to you. So what type of business are you looking to start?
In finance,
What's the business?
hedge fund.
Hedge fund, interesting. So for a hedge fund business from a marketing standpoint, what I would do is I would speak to someone that's currently in that business and ask them what marketing activities that they're involved in, where do they see the greatest traction with those various techniques, and I would speak to as many houses as you can. Because what they're doing today is a lot different than what we were doing when I was involved in banking. Does it make sense? The best resource for your business is someone in your business. Best resource for your business is someone who is in that business, that's being successful in that business. Okay? You're welcome.
For marketing, if you have a promotion or you're going to claim something, do you have any links or support for legal? For example, if you're claiming something that you're 100% whatever, you want to make sure that you have the right legal behind it, I guess.
So in every industry, there are certain restrictions of things that you can say and things you cannot say. The first one that comes to mind are these weight loss programs. When they say, this client lost 100 pounds, but then you see the disclaimer, not all results will be similar. So as it relates to whatever industry specifically that you're looking to go into, look at the wording, look at, especially another thing is some organizations get you to sign an online contract, and most people will just scroll right through the online contract. So when you go to their pages, if you buy their service and go through their sales process, copy that contract, take a look at it, read it in detail, but most importantly, look at who's currently in the business, look at the claims that they're making, and speak to them about what is allowable versus not. It's a pretty broad solution to say to ask experts, because I can tell you what I think, but they're going to tell you what they know. Does that make sense? Okay, any more questions? Microphone.
Hi, So the business that I'm thinking of starting is like a resume editing business, and I want to start on a website like Fiverr. So when I looked at all the vendors that are doing resume editing, there's over like 2,000 of them. So when I'm thinking about pricing strategy, one thing I've heard was like start really low, like $5.
Who told you that?
Someone, it was something I read about like one of the top vendors on Fiverr. So they were like, start at like the $5 price point so you build recognition, because Fiverr like does levels, like top seller, level 1, level 2. So I'm wondering if that makes sense to start like really low to build recognition and then like keep putting your price higher as you become like a top level seller.
So when looking at that medium and that medium alone, that may be a good strategy for Fiverr. But there are other mediums out there outside of Fiverr. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another medium. And I probably wouldn't pay someone $5 on LinkedIn to do my resume, but if I saw on their LinkedIn profile, expert resume writer, and then I saw recommendations of previous clients that said, oh, I work with, your name is?
Daily.
I work with Daily worked on my resume for this period of time, and I was able to get a job. See, people want results, and they will pay a premium for a result. So think about not only the features of what you do, but focus on the benefits and get individuals that you've worked with in the past. And if you don't have any people from the past, then speak with complete strangers and say, hey, how would you like a resume makeover? Get some folks in to get those recommendations up. And I'm saying this is just another resource, because Fiverr, when you look at Fiverr, everyone there is looking for the cheap solution. And you don't want to brand yourself as the cheap solution. I mean, if you do, that's fine. But when you think about your financial goals as it relates to the competition, you're looking to create economic independence. And so what I would be thinking, if it were me, I'm thinking about what's the maximum amount of money that I can charge, so I can get to my financial goal much quicker. Now, who is in that space? What are they saying? What types of services do they offer? Do they offer in person? Do they offer over, something like Zoom or otherwise? So look at all of the different options in terms of competitors, and then decide where you want to be on that continuum. But look at Fiverr as the bottom. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name is Juan Santos. I'm trying to start a business that's dealing with human services, with modalities, activities, programs, and interventions using therapeutic recreation. I have a degree in both areas, but I have no competition. Nobody's doing such a field. Nobody's basically putting six professional career fields in one and charging for one price, which is therapeutic occupational therapy, physical therapy, physiological, and then we have recreational and then leisure education.
So let me communicate back to you what you're communicating to me.
Yes, sir.
So you have multiple features for your service, which is therapy. Yes?
Correct.
So everyone who provides therapy of any of those natures are a competitor to you. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because if I'm looking for therapy, I'm looking for therapy based on what I know about therapy. An average person is going to tell me one of those things. So I'm going to go looking for one of those things. And you're going to pop up on this spectrum. So if I'm looking for occupational therapy, how many other people are going to pop up? You're going to pop up. Now, when they see that you offer all these other things, either they want what you offer or they don't, but you are competing.
Okay.
Okay?
So I'm basically just like competing against, you raised that. You're right, competing.
See, there's indirect. But you have to look at it from the perspective of the consumer. From the consumer, you're a therapist. Think about this, take the average Joe into consideration. The average Joe does what he's told. And so if he's told I need therapy, I'm going to go look for therapy. Whether it's occupational, recreational, or or all the other titles. Average Joe is saying, I need therapists, so you're a therapist. And there's tons of therapists in the customer's mind. So you have to think about what you can articulate to that customer that separates you on the level that the average Joe can appreciate. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
Basically, like our two core of our principles are humanist centered approach to monitoring, and then client centered approach to monitoring. And basically, like you have a lot of organizations and agencies set up that way, but nobody's really exercising those approach modalities very effectively.
The average person doesn't understand.
Exactly.
So because they don't understand, you have to look at, again, from their perspective, what do they see you as? So the best thing that I can recommend that you do is talk to as many strangers as you can.
I have. This thing's been in the works for me about almost 13 to 15 years.
Okay?
And I'm like, I think I'm to the point.
So what is the market telling you? Because what I would do is I would put in front of them 5 companies that do therapy. Let's say each of the individual 5. This company does occupational, this company does recreational, this company does, and I do all of them. And just present it to a stranger and say, I'm curious, if you needed therapy and you saw all of these options available, which one would you choose and why?
I've kind of asked a similar question to the public like that. They all said that they want a service that's specific for them.
And everybody's different.
And everybody, so basically what we have right now in society, if 10 people walked in, 10 different people, and they all had the same diagnosis of ADHD, all right? Currently, in our medical systems and therapies, they're sticking with like...
Let me stop you. We're focusing on features right now, but we talked in the presentation about benefits. What is the benefit that your customer is going to derive by doing business with you? Look at how these other companies are proposing benefit, compare your benefit to theirs. Does that make sense?
That makes absolutely good sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, when you were talking about pricing your product, and you said there's a low price, there's the high price, and you either want to be somewhere in the middle or you want to exceed. What about the whole, like the McDonald's theory, volume? You know,
So what I said is that you have 3 options. You have 3 options. Just like the company that underpriced the market. So they were going for volume. Someone in the middle, they typically choose that because they don't want to go above or below. And then there's the group that goes above because they're providing some form of convenience or otherwise. I said the choice is yours.
Yeah, the choice is yours, but in like your professional opinion, starting out a business, would you suggest that for a person to start undercutting the market and go for volume?
When I say it depends on several different things. It depends on your goal. So some people want to get their product in every single person's hand, so they're offered for free. Whereas other folks want to provide something of a certain exclusivity with a certain clientele that they want to work with, so they offer it high. And then you have folks that are in this band that want to make some money, not looking to be here in this market, not looking to be the free option. It's a personal choice. It's a personal choice in terms of how you want to brand your company going forward. Think about the brand. Brand is your reputation. What is the reputation that you want to see your company represented as? When they say, what's your name?
Fashina.
Tashina?
Fashina.
Fashina. So on Good Morning, when you're on Good Morning America, and I want you to invite me to watch when you're there, they say, we're here with Fashina and she's launched a type of business?
Extermination.
An extermination business, and unlike other exterminating companies in New York, she and you fill in the blank with what is special and unique. And they'll say, she recently was in the New York Business Planning Competition 2 years ago, where she initially got her concept, and what do you want them to say? She exterminates for the rich and the famous. She has multiple contracts with the city because she's doing city contracts, or she offers her service for free out of the goodness of her heart because she's independently wealthy. Think about what you want them to say, because that becomes a part of your dream. And when you first start dreaming about your business and where you want it to be, then your business becomes a possibility. When you begin to take action by being involved in the competition, writing your business plan, and the more people you tell, then you're creating the probability. And the more you do that, the probability of successful launch and growing increases. Make sense? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Could you tell me, when you create your projected, number, the budget, let's say, for 5 years, etc., where do you get those numbers from?
When you're creating your projections?
Yes.
So I'll tell you, the first number that you want to
From startup,
Understood. So
each goal has,
So when you're making a projection, it's called a guesstimation.
a guesstimation.
A guesstimation.
And what do you know is
Now let me-
is that
Now let me explain.
guesstimation.
In your guesstimation, what I've advised clients to do is to come up with how much money they need to make in their business, because if you're not making the money you need to make in order to pay your bills, then why be in business? So that's number one. How much money do you need to make? Number two, money for vacation. Every single family member, $5,000 because you want to go on a dream vacation. Number three, how much money do you want to save on an annual basis? And then the cost to run the business. You're only going to determine the cost of how much it costs to run the business by speaking to people who are actually in the business. So that becomes your target revenue for year one. And the reason I say that's the target revenue for year one is because if you plan to make a certain number, chances are you're going to hit it, and I'll tell you why. But also, if you don't plan to hit a number, if you don't have a number, then you're going to end up someplace. Once I know the number that I have to make, and let's say hypothetically that number is $1 million, and I say I'm going to make that amount in 10 months out of the year. So $1 million in 10 months is really $1 million in a month. It's really $250,000 a week, which is really $50,000 a day. Once I know that target for the day, then when I'm starting my business, at the end of that first day, did I make 250, yes or no? If I didn't, then I need to change my strategy. Each day I hit my number, I need to change my strategy. If I hit the number, then I can modify the strategy. I can mimic that same process going forward. The point that I'm making is with no target in mind, then you don't know what to do on a daily basis. So I say start with a number that you can make a great salary, go on vacation, have savings, and cover your expenses.
And then I add, the cost of the product that I will say, and all the expenses.
Say again?
The cost, I add all those numbers, that you had some.
But
Vacation time, etc.
But speak to people who are currently in the business and ask them the question, how much is it going to cost for me to operate this business?
But do you think that they will tell me if the competition will tell me?
The more people you ask, eventually you're going to get to someone that's going to tell you the answer.
Somebody will tell me.
But continue to make 5 phone calls a day, minimally. Even after you get to the answer, still make 5 phone calls a day to develop contacts in the industry. Ask about strategy, ask about marketing, ask about sales, ask about marketing. So every single industry is covered by an association.
The association.
So identify what the association is. There's a resource here at the library called the Encyclopedia of Associations. There's also trade shows and conferences. Go to those conferences, speak to the speakers, speak to individuals at those trade shows to become as knowledgeable of your industry as possible. But ask the question. Sit down with a business advisor. They have business advisors at Baruch, at Pace, at Columbia, at NYU, at Lehman College, at the College of Staten Island. Sit down with business advisors and say, this is what I'm thinking. I want to bounce this off of you to get some feedback. So you also have SCORE, Society of Retired Executives. If you can find someone in your industry that works at SCORE, they can then share their knowledge with you.
Yes.
Okay?
Do I trademarking my business or my...
So I personally would not spend money on the business until I know I'm going to make money in the business.
I want to make money in the business.
I'm sorry?
I want to make money in the business, sure.
So again, you have to look at cost benefit. Is there
No. The question is, as I go ask the councilors or the trade shows, do you think that they will do my ideas to develop their own businesses?
Oh no, they're not going to take your ideas to develop their business. No,
You don't have a channel where
you don't have to worry about that.
don't worry about it.
They've seen hundreds of businesses before you walk through the door.